The screen of my phone flashed menacingly. Dad calling. Standing on the veranda of our oceanfront villa, I watched storm clouds gathering on the horizon, a fitting backdrop for the conversation I was about to have. The salty breeze whipped around me, carrying the scent of impending rain. "You did what?" My voice cracked like thunder. "Margaret, sweetheart, you have to understand. Diana needs." "You tried to sell our home?" My knuckles turned white around the phone. "Without our consent?" "The papers were already prepared," my father's voice wavered. "Diana's in trouble. She needs $200,000, and this vacation home, you barely use it anyway." I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound that scattered across the waves. "So you forged our signatures?" The silence on the other end was deafening. "Margaret, I thought you'd understand," he finally said, desperation creeping into his voice. "Diana needs money. If we don't pay off the debt, well, it's only natural for family to help each other. Some say family ties are unbreakable. I learned they have a breaking point. I'm Margaret Moore, and my story begins with a red bicycle on my 5th birthday. The moment I saw it gleaming under the morning sun, my heart soared, until my sister Diana's eyes lit up. Even at 3 years old, she knew how to work our parents. One quivering lip, one longing glance, and the decision was made. "Diana wants it, doesn't she?" Mom's words still echo in my memory. "You're the big sister, Margaret. Let her have it." Just like that, my birthday present became Diana's. My protests, "but it's my birthday gift," fell on deaf ears. This pattern defined my childhood like permanent ink on paper. The pencil case I received for starting elementary school, a delicate thing with hand-painted butterflies, caught Diana's eye during the first week. By Friday, it was hers. My plain replacement came from the discount store, its plastic scratched and dull. "Diana is still young," my mother would explain, smoothing Diana's hair while avoiding my gaze. "She wants what you have. You understand, don't you?" I understood too well. When I begged for swimming lessons, the answer came swift and final. "We're spending money on Diana's piano lessons. Besides, Diana would feel lonely going to her classes alone." For Diana's activities, piano, ballet, painting, money flowed like water. Meanwhile, I was restricted to free school clubs and told to help with Diana's homework whenever I finished mine. School events became exercises in disappointment. Both parents attended Diana's performances without fail. But mine were too busy at work. Even when I came first in the district track meet, no one noticed. Diana had scraped her knee during recess, and that commanded full attention. My speech as class president? They skipped it for Diana's art exhibition. By 6th grade, when I was elected class representative, I didn't bother telling them. The conversation would inevitably circle back to Diana, like a compass pointing eternally north. The memory that cuts deepest came during my 3rd year of high school. After months of grueling study sessions and practice tests, I secured admission to my first-choice university. My mother's response? A distracted, "Oh, that's nice," while poring over Diana's mock test results. That evening, she prepared all of Diana's favorite dishes. My achievement dinner became another celebration of Diana's mediocre test scores. Christmas brought the same pattern. Diana received designer bags, jewelry, electronics. I got practical items, notebooks, pens, plain sweaters from department store sales. Even my club competition travel expenses were denied because Diana's piano competition is coming up. Diana is sensitive. Diana is delicate. Diana needs more. By university, I'd accepted my role as the family afterthought. Then I met Ken at the windsurfing club, and everything changed. I can still taste the salt water from that first practice session. The waves were merciless, tossing me like a rag doll. After my 10th fall, with burning eyes and aching muscles, I was ready to quit. That's when Ken extended his hand, droplets glistening off his wetsuit. "Everyone starts like this," he said, grinning. I fell all day long when I was a freshman too. Such simple words, but they changed everything. For the first time someone saw me, not Diana's sister, not the reliable eldest child, just Margaret. One moment stands crystal clear in my memory. It was the final day of training camp, the sky painted in twilight hues. I'd been struggling all day, failing to stand even once. "Margaret," Ken's voice carried across the water. "The wind is shifting." Something clicked. Suddenly, I felt everything. The wind's direction, the wave's rhythm, the board beneath my feet. I stood and rode, and the world made sense. The team cheered from the shore, but I only saw Ken's beaming smile. "Don't fight the waves," he'd say during our training sessions. "Feel them. Move with them." Those words resonated deeper than just surfing advice. No one had ever encouraged me to find my own rhythm before. Ken saw potential where my family saw obligation. "You've got talent, Margaret," he'd tell me, his eyes sincere. "Your intuition for reading waves is amazing." It wasn't just his technical guidance that drew me in. It was his kindness, his playful spirit, the way he treated me as someone worth investing in. We started dating a few months later, and after graduation we did something that horrified my parents, turned our passion into business. An import company for marine sports equipment. "How will you survive?" my father demanded. "Diana is struggling. You need to help the family," my mother insisted. Ah, yes, Diana. My sister had dropped out of university, drifting between part-time jobs, accumulating debt that my parents faithfully cleared. "Poor child," they'd say, defending her every misstep. But Ken believed in our dream. We worked 3 jobs each, saved every penny, and started in a tiny apartment 30 minutes from the nearest station. Our first office furniture came from secondhand stores. Our starting line, Ken called it, making even scratched desks and wobbly chairs seem like treasures. Building a business proved harder than riding the biggest waves. "You're too young," potential partners would say. "No track record." Each rejection stung, but we persisted. We attended every marine sports tournament, built relationships with athletes, earned trust one handshake at a time. Our breakthrough came with a small Australian manufacturer, newcomers like us, looking to expand into the Asian market. Maybe they saw themselves in our hungry determination. The night we signed that exclusive distributor contract, we celebrated in our cramped office with cheap sparkling wine and convenience store snacks, dreaming of the future between bites of canned tuna. 5 years of relentless work transformed our tiny operation into an industry name. Then came our crown jewel, the vacation home. The moment we crested that hill and saw it, we knew. Perched above the coastline, surrounded by whispering pines with the ocean spread before it like a blanket of diamonds. "This is the one," Ken said, squeezing my hand. My parents opposed it, naturally. "It's unnecessary to spend so much money on such a luxury," they scoffed. But their disapproval wasn't just about the cost. They'd never fully accepted my career choice, my life with Ken, my independence from their Diana-centric world. That first night in our new home, Ken and I sat on the deck beneath a canopy of stars, listening to the waves below. "Margaret," he whispered, "let's grow old together here." Those words wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. But family has a way of shattering peace. The call came after a business trip to Southeast Asia. "Margaret, I need to talk to you," my father began, his forced confidence setting off alarm bells. "Did something happen?" "It's about your vacation home. I've already sold it. The ownership transfer will take place next month." The world tilted. "You what?" "Diana is in trouble. She failed at an investment and now has $200,000 in debt. The collectors." "And what does that have to do with our home?" My voice could have frozen the summer air. "Margaret, I thought you'd understand. Diana needs money. If we don't help, you barely even use the vacation home. Is a house you visit occasionally more important than your sister's life?" The truth spilled out like toxic waste. They'd forged our signatures, prepared false documents, created an elaborate lie about overseas relocation to convince the buyers. "This is a crime," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. "I'm contacting the police." My father gasped. "The police? Don't be ridiculous. This is a family matter." "No, Dad. Fraud isn't a family matter. It's a crime." The investigation peeled back layers of calculated deception. 3 months of meticulous planning, forged signatures practiced until perfect, a web of lies spun to realtors and neighbors. My mother, ever the devoted parent to Diana, had even spread rumors about our supposed financial troubles to justify the sale. "Diana isn't to blame," my mother sobbed during police questioning. "She was tricked. She's not as smart as Margaret. She needs protection." Even the hardened detective looked uncomfortable at her blind devotion. The numbers told a devastating story. Diana's foolproof investment scheme started with $10,000, then spiraled to $200,000. My parents had already drained their retirement savings, sold their land, and when that well ran dry, they turned to our vacation home. the physical manifestation of Ken's and my dreams. Diana's pattern of financial disasters stretched back years. College tuition squandered on luxury shopping sprees, $3,000 here, $30,000 there. She's young, they'd say. She doesn't understand money yet. A boyfriend's investment scheme cost them $38,000. Each time, my parents rushed to her rescue, enabling her reckless behavior while demanding I be more responsible. How could you do this, sis? Diana's voice dripped with accusation when she called. Turning our parents over to the police is cruel. We could have worked something out. Like what, Diana? Letting them sell our home without consent? It's time you took responsibility for your actions. I'm done being your family's safety net. The court showed mercy. My parents received a suspended sentence, but the damage was done. Their reputations shattered, their comfortable life destroyed. They sold their house, moving with Diana into a cramped apartment on the city outskirts. My mother, once proud and elegant, now stocked shelves at dawn and worked a supermarket register at night. My father took a security guard position, working 7 days a week. I heard he collapsed from exhaustion but returned to work immediately. Debt collectors don't accept medical excuses. Diana remained unchanged. Within months, she met someone at a nightclub who promised another guaranteed investment opportunity. When my parents couldn't help, she turned to me. Margaret, lend me $50,000. I promise this time is different. I sent them information on debt counseling and financial rehabilitation programs instead. Sometimes love means refusing to enable destruction. 1 year later, I stood on our deck watching winter waves crash against the shore. The same deck where my parents had planned to sell our dreams from under us. The ocean remained constant, even when everything else changed. I'd seen my mother at the supermarket recently, unrecognizable with her premature white hair and hunched shoulders. When our eyes met across the aisles, she hurried away, her basket filled with nearly expired discounts. The neighborhood gossips whispered about how the mighty had fallen. The Moores are having such a tough time, they'd say, not bothering to lower their voices at the checkout where my mother worked. The final blow to their pride came when my father collapsed during his night shift. But bills don't pay themselves, so he returned to work the next day, his face gray with exhaustion. Their debt payments were relentless, and Diana's presence in their tiny apartment was a constant reminder of their failures. Then came Diana's holiday email. Margaret, lend me $50,000. I promise I can turn everything around. This is all your fault anyway. If you hadn't called the police, we could have solved everything by selling that stupid vacation home. That evening, Ken found me staring at the darkness beyond our deck. His arms wrapped around my shoulders, warm against the winter chill. You're not at fault, he whispered, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. I've been thinking, he continued, his voice thoughtful. What if we use this vacation home for charity events? Give underprivileged kids a chance to experience marine sports. Transform this place from a symbol of family betrayal into something meaningful? My heart swelled at his suggestion. Having known the loneliness of family rejection, the idea of creating a sanctuary for others felt right. A place where dreams could take flight, where children could learn to ride the waves of life, instead of fighting them. We changed into our wetsuits and rode the winter waves together. The icy spray washed away the last traces of guilt and regret. Yes, I'd lost my biological family, but I'd chosen a better path. Our vacation home, which my parents saw as mere collateral for Diana's mistakes, would become a beacon of hope. Sometimes the strongest family ties aren't the ones we're born with, but the ones we choose to build. As Ken and I watched the sun set over our piece of paradise, I realized that some dreams are worth fighting for, even if it means letting go of the past to embrace a better future. The waves kept rolling in, constant and sure, like the love that had saved me. In their rhythm, I finally found peace. Our home would stand as testimony that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the ashes of broken relationships, and in helping others find their way, perhaps I had found the truest meaning of family after all. The end of one story became the beginning of another, as endless as the ocean itself.